As you know from your former position, St. Lucie County is growing at a very rapid rate. Tell us about how you view the district's efforts to keep up with that growth. Is it doing a good job now of keeping pace? And what, if anything, might you do differently?
You know, all of us in government lost 2 years due to COVID. I myself, we had finished the fire station in May of 2000, and we weren't able to put another shovel in the ground until last summer, just because everything was backlogged. I know the school district went through the same challenges. They've got several capital projects coming out of the ground now. Westwood has a major expansion over there, and they're also obviously building the new high school, and we'll be starting the new K-8 out there in Tradition. I think it's something they have to be mindful of. I'm in discussions with staff. They're at about $96 million on bonds right now, which is they're at their bond limit. So I talked to them about how does that get them adjusted. I think there's some legislative things that they will need some help with, and they have to go back to their bond manager. And that's something I said, how soon are you doing that? They said, we're probably going to be bringing that up in October. So I recognize, once you hit your bond limit, most of these projects are done through impact fees. So it's a matter of, as that money comes in, you're paying back down your bonds. The thing that you get worried about is if there's a significant reset, like we had back in 2008, that you'll have bonds hanging out there and not income streams coming in. So it's something you have to be very mindful of. But at this point, the growth doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. And that's one of the challenges, is meeting that growth, particularly west of Port St. Lucie in the Tradition area.
All right. How can the district keep improving on its high school graduation rates?
We use the specific criteria. I've heard some criticism that the rates are not accurate. We're using the same criteria that the state of Florida does. Their rates have gone up dramatically, and it's been a focus point of the board and of the superintendent. I think there is some room for improvement. 94% is nice, 98% is better. I think we need to be working more towards that. And I think if we really start moving more towards giving kids or students an opportunity in career and technical education, they'll stay in school longer, because the end game becomes a little bit brighter to them. If they're not college motivated, if you're able to offer them an opportunity to get into a trade that they like, and expose them to that, I think you'll actually see improvement in graduation rates, because the end game then is, now I can step into the workforce and be competitive. I'm talking about carpenters, AC workers, plumbers. When I talk to people in the community, particularly business owners, they struggle to find people that are qualified. I have a business owner that lives next door to me, and he said, Nate, if I could just get away from having to train new employees, I could literally expand my business. But I spend most of my time training people and bringing them in. So I think that's an area where down the road you can see real improvement in graduation rates, when those kids that are not really college bound have an incentive to stay in school.
Okay, thank you. I know a lot of this is controlled at the state level, but what as a board member can be done to raise teacher pay, or generally to make teaching, retaining teachers easier?
One of the things that the public can do right now is they have a referendum coming up this November that'll reaffirm they have sent sales tax. Part of that goes to teacher retention. Part of it goes to safety and security, which, based on my background, I feel very strongly about. And the other goes back into capital projects. It's really imperative that we maintain that. At the state level, throughout my career, I used to be the president of the Firefighters Union 25 years ago. And throughout my career, I've been active in working with the legislature. I regularly go up to Tallahassee. I was up there twice again this past year on other issues with respect to fire department pensions. I think that's where the rubber hits the road. We need to be working our local legislative delegation to make that a priority, to reduce teacher turnover. I'm very proud of the fact that the organization I ran had the lowest turnover rate of any government entity in St. Lucie County when we won the Best Places to Work Award. And it's not because we were the highest paid fire department on the Treasure Coast. We were not. We created a culture where people felt they were engaged and involved in something bigger than themselves. And I think we really need to support our teachers and our all of our staff, right down to cafeteria workers and bus drivers, that they are valued and an important part of our organization. That's one of the ways, that a cost-effective way to really bring the school district together.
You talked about the training for students who might not be on a college track.
Yes.
And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about if there needs to be any rebalancing in the approach to more of a traditional academic education versus that type of practical training, or if you think what the district is already doing is pretty much the balance that you need to be at.
I don't think we're there, and I've been very vocal about this. I think what we can do, and it's a 5 to 10 year project. This is not an overnight thing, and it will require some cost to do it. I think we need to centralize career and technical education to one campus. Right now, it's kind of spread out amongst the district. Depending on where you go to high school, you'll have access or not have access to certain programs. And I think if we really centralize CTE, the district's got plenty of land, and have a 10-year program that eventually, our students will go to their traditional high school either in the morning or in the afternoon. They'll knock out what they need to be knocking out for their junior and senior years, and then they'll go to the Career Technical Education Center and then get that other background. Other areas do this. It's very popular, frankly, on Long Island, where I'm from. Other large counties in the state are moving in that direction. And we have to face the fact that we are a growing and large county. And I think it's an area we can really grow with. IRSC is providing some of those programs, but I think if we get in at the entry level, IRSC will be able to raise their bar even further. So a kid graduating high school, let's say, and he's had the basics in auto mechanics. He could then go to IRSC and get advanced level things, whereby, any dealership would love to have them because they're completely qualified and certified to walk in and start the job. And I think that's an area where we can work to develop relationships with the business community, with IRSC, to really target what's got to be at least half of our students graduating from school. That would include nursing programs. There's no reason why they don't have their CNA done before leaving high school. They can go right into LPN at IRSC. And ultimately, a lot of the nursing homes and the hospitals will help them pay for tuition to go through their RN. There are a lot of opportunities there that I think we need to expand on.
Tell me about your top 3 priorities if you're elected. And we had this on our questionnaire, but for the benefit of the people who might not look at that, and you will see this video instead.
My top priorities are pretty clear. I've already covered them. I'm happy to do it again. We focus on the core educational priorities of reading, math, and sciences. Secondly, we dramatically expand our career and technical education to include all those students that are not on a career path or a college path. And lastly, and not by priority, is school safety. I feel very strongly that we need to be continuing hardening our facilities. There are opportunities there. They're working towards that. I think the state's actually done some good things there, making it a requirement that our facilities are locked down. The perimeter of our schools is the most vulnerable area in our public schools. I worked very closely with Brian Ruther when he was the director of security for the school system, and a lot of the things that you see there were born out of that relationship, where we talked about, particularly right after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, what are the challenges? I was formerly a Coral Springs firefighter before I came here, and one of the assistant chiefs down there, we went to the fire academy together. And a short time after the shooting, he and I had a conversation, and we talked about what worked and what didn't work. And we had just trained all of our sheriff's department officials on how we go into there tactically. And what we hadn't done was train Fort Pierce PD or PSL PD. They had the inverse problem. So when they were trying to get into the facility, the sheriff's department was holding out the fire department, saying it's not secure. They go, well, we're part of the security part of that. So we immediately, within 2 months, engaged in training all of the Fort Pierce PD and PSL PD, to make sure we're all working on the same page. God forbid we face that challenge. Security is a big issue for me.
We hear less about this in school board races than in some of the other races on the ballot, but people often talk about cost reductions. Are there any areas within the school system budget that you feel are wasteful or need to be cut back?
I think they should be doing on a biannual basis an evaluation of all administrative positions to ensure that A, they're effective, and B, that they're necessary, or maybe the other way around. In the organization I ran before, we were doing as much as we could to keep the boots on the ground. That was the priority. I think that we need to have the same priorities at the school system. There are a lot of requirements that require administrative staff, but the same token, I think we have to, on a biannual basis, be mindful that the teaching goes on in the classroom, and that's where we need to be concentrating our resources. And if there's areas we can cut in the upper levels, that's something we have to take a strong look at.
I'll end on a question we've been giving to most of the candidates. What haven't we asked you during this interview, or what haven't I asked you that you would like to address at this time?
I think we've covered a lot of ground here today. I'm worried about there's some challenges that every school district in the state are going to face regarding transportation. One of the things I've learned in the past few years, particularly being involved with the Boys and Girls Club, is every time you come up with a solution in education, the next conversation is about transportation. And with this change that they're about to do with high school start times, they're looking about increasing transportation costs by 20%. It's really unnecessary. And whether I get elected or not, I will be going to Tallahassee this spring and really advocating that they withdraw that and let the individual school districts deal with their transportation issues and their school start times. It has so many impacts that it would take a long time to explain, but it comes even right down to extracurricular activities after school would be adversely impacted by that. And again, it's a cost that will be borne out by the taxpayers, and it's completely unnecessary. So, like I said, whether I get elected or not, I'm going to be a big, strong advocate that the state get out of that business of telling school districts what their start time should be.
Okay. That's all I had. Larry, you have anything you want to close us out with?
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Spera for joining us and for volunteering to run a campaign. It's not the easiest thing to do, so thank you for doing it. And good luck in your campaign. And for the rest of you watching out there, please continue to visit TCPalm for the latest election information. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, guys.